to turn on their video. You get extra credit. Okay. Okay, so we're second chapter, contents of the Gita summarized, text 19. So if you can repeat, Ya enam veti hantaram. Yas chainam manyate hatam. Ubautau na vijanito. Nayam hanti nahanyate.
Nayam hannati nahanyate.
Ya enam veti hantaram.
Ya enam veti hantaram.
Yas chainam manyate hatam.
Yas chainam manyate hatam.
Ubautau na vijanito.
Abhayoto vijanato.
Nayam hanti nahanyate.
Nenam hannati nahanyate.
Ya enam veti hantaram.
Ya enam veti hantaram.
Yaschainam manyate hatam.
Yas chainam manyate hatam.
Ubautau na vijanito.
Abhayoto na vijanato.
Nayam hanti nahanyate.
Nenam hannati nahanyate. Ya enam veti hantaram. Yas chainam manyate hatam. Bautau na vijanito. Nayam hanti nahanyate. Ya enam veti hantaram. Ya enam veti hantaram. Yas chainam manyate hatam. Yas chainam manyate hatam. Abhayoto na vijanato. Ubautau na vijanito. Nenam hannati nahanyate. Nayam hanti nahanyate. Ya enam veti hantaram. Ya enam veti hantaram. Yas chainam manyate hatam. Yas chainam manyate hatam. Ubhautau na vijanito. Abhayoto na vijanato. Nayam hanti nahanyate. Ye enam veti hantaram. Ye enam veti hantaram. Yas chainam manyate hatam. Yas chainam manyate hatam. Ubhayotyana vijanito. Ubhayotyana vijanito. Nayam hanti nahanyate. Nayam hanti nahanyate.
Ya enam veti hantaram.
Ya enam veti hantaram.
Yas chainam manyate hatam.
Yas chainam manyate hatam.
Ubautau na vijanito.
Ubhayoto na vijanito.
Nayam hatti nahanyate.
Nayam hanti nahanyate.
Yaha.
Ya.
Anyone who.
Anyone who.
Enam.
Enam.
This.
This.
Veti.
Veti,
Veti.
knows.
knows.
Hantaram,
Antaram,
the killer.
the killer.
Aha,
Yaha,
Yaha.
anyone who.
anyone who.
Anyone.
Cha,
Ja,
Ja.
also.
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 Enam,
Enam.
Enam,
this.
this.
Death.
Manyate,
Manyate,
thinks.
Thinks.
Atam,
Atam,
killed.
Kill.
Thou,
Bow.
both.
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 Thou,
Thou,
they.
they.
Na,
Na.
never.
Never.
Vijanitaha,
Vijanitaha,
are in knowledge.
are in knowledge.
Na,
No,
never.
never.
Ayam,
Ayam.
this.
This.
Anti,
Ante,
Hunting.
kills.
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 Na,
No,
Na.
nor.
nor.
Anyate,
Manyate,
Anyate.
is killed.
Is
killed.
Translation. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. Purport. When an embodied living entity is hurt by fatal weapons, it is to be known that the living entity within the body is not killed. The spirit soul is so small that it is impossible to kill him by any material weapon, as will be evident from subsequent verses. Nor is the living entity killable because because of his spiritual constitution. What is killed or is supposed to be killed is the body only. This, however, does not at all encourage killing of the body. The Vedic injunction is ma himsyat sarva bhutani. Never commit violence to anyone. Nor does understanding that the living entity is not killed encourage animal slaughter. Killing the body of anyone without authority is abominable and is punishable by the law of the state as well as the law of the Lord. Arjuna, however, is being engaged in killing for the principle of religion and not whimsically. Namaha Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nivasesa Sunyavadi Prastachadi Sitarane. Neither he who thinks the living entity, the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge, for the self slays not, nor is slain. So Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, and Krishna is telling Arjuna that you have to kill. You're not really killing. You're only killing the body. So it's okay. The person is still alive. But in the purport, Prabhupada says how you shouldn't, kill. Of course, the idea is you shouldn't kill unnecessarily. Certain times killing is proper. A policeman will kill somebody who's killing people. He's shooting other people, so the policeman will kill him. That's proper to do. And in a war, you're in a war, you have to fight. If you're fighting for your country, you may have to kill someone. Actually, in a war, you kill someone, you may get a medal. But in society, you get out of it. the military and you killed someone and you go to jail for the rest of your life, or you're killed, or you go to jail for 15 years and they let you out. But you do get punished somewhat. Of course, in the Manu Samhita, if you killed someone, then you're killed. And it says that it's the least amount of suffering you can receive in order to counteract the sin that you committed. So in other words, if you killed someone and you're killed, then you were paid for that sin. If you killed someone and you put in jail even for your life, you still have to pay for that sin. You paid maybe a little something, but you still got to pay for it. So then you may have to get killed again in your next life. So it says in the Manu Samhita, that is, or the king that sentenced someone to death is compassionate. He's merciful. He's doing the least amount of suffering to that person for his sins. So, but here, this is a war, and he's a soldier, and he has to fight in this war. So if he's worried about he's killing these people, you're not killing anyone. Look at it this way. The spirit soul takes another body. And also, if you killed someone in this battle, then they'll at least go to the heavenly planets. They're going to have a much better situation than they have now, because they're fighting in a war as a kshatriya. So it's definitely beneficial to them either way. And also for you, it's beneficial. If you get killed, then you'll go to heavenly planets. Or if you win, you get to win all these things here. So this is just one of the arguments, but it's also very important how Prabhupada points out, not only is it, we shouldn't, it's not encouraging killing, and he mentions himsyat sarva bhutani, never commit violence to anyone. But then he also adds to the animals. They're also living entities. You should not kill them either. So not only you shouldn't kill people, you shouldn't kill animals. I mean, what kind of world we got here? We can't kill anything. Some people might feel that way, but there are times for killing, war, policemen sometimes. And also if you're attacked, there's different times. It says if someone sets fire to your house, this is in Vedic culture, you can kill them. If they attack with a deadly weapon, you can kill them. That you can do also in our culture if they attack with a deadly weapon. I'm not sure. There's a few different times when it's proper, or it's not sinful to kill someone who is maybe plundering your riches. I don't really know the others, but there are more things. I used to know more. But there are certain times that you can kill someone. But in general, we don't. The only one we would do is if someone is attacking with a deadly weapon, then we can kill them. Fortunately, it doesn't happen too often. I don't even remember it ever happening. It happened in other places, other temples in India or something, when someone may have attacked. And I don't think they were killed, but they were disarmed. But you can, at least according to the Manu Samhita. So there are certain times where it's okay to kill. And this is one of those times in this war. And if you're worried about killing, you're not really killing them. They're still alive. They're the soul. They're not the body. So that's, I think, in a kind of a big nutshell, all of that I think I can say about that. It's pretty simple, pretty clear, I think. But does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
Who's that?
My name is Murli Vadakadas.
Oh, I didn't see you. I would maybe not ask that question. Okay, Murli Vadaka, what's your question?
So you were explaining a soldier, if he's fighting for his country, may have to kill. So my question is, Arjuna is fighting a religious war. But in our days, if you're a soldier, if someone becomes a soldier and then he's fighting for his country, it wouldn't be a religious war. Therefore, is his killing sinful or not sinful?
I'm gonna give you my extremely humble.
You're an old Navy man, so you know.
Yeah, I would say it's not sinful. You're fighting a war because even the people who are fighting on the other side and they're on the wrong side, they'd also go to heavenly planets. So you're fighting against religion, but if you have to do it, you don't really have much choice. That's what I would say. I don't know if you go to the heavenly planets, but it's not sinful. It's like somebody attacking you. You have to fight, you're put out there. Of course, nowadays it's, people that are not kshatriyas. That's why they have so many problems. There's this, what do they call it? Oh, some kind of stress that they have from
Post-traumatic
Yeah,
syndrome,
post-traumatic.
PTSD.
Yeah, kshatriyas wouldn't have that. They come back and it's shit, I just killed somebody. And, they're not kshatriyas. They're Shudras, they're Vaishyas, they're not Brahmins either, but they're not Kshatriyas. Not everybody, of course, there are Kshatriyas. If you learn about General Patton, he seemed like he was a Kshatriya.
Yeah.
If anybody would like to Google General Patton and learn about him. But and he couldn't tolerate people who weren't, he was Kshatriya and he expected everyone else to be. But when they weren't, because they had all this post-traumatic stress or disorder, he thought it was phony. He thought, why, but a real Kshatriyas, they wouldn't have that. But unfortunately, our military isn't made with just Kshatriyas. It's whoever they can get, and generally, most of them are not Kshatriyas. Even police, people become policemen and they have problems too with stress if they killed somebody or something. So anyway, that's my opinion. Do you have the answer?
No, that's why I turned to you.
Normally you turn to me and then you give me the answer.
I just read in the 9th canto, Prabhupada said the Kshatriya will never return from a battlefield unless he's injured or victorious. There's no question of coming back because you lost or I don't want to fight.
Right. Well, you hid until you got a chance to run away.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Nice to see you, Merle.
I was thinking I was going to be watching the Super Bowl and you came on instead.
I think the Super Bowl was Sunday.
Oh, well, what do I know?
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I don't know what I did, but I definitely did. I have not watched the Super Bowl in many, many years.
Me too.
How many
Hare
people,
Krishna Pyari Prabhuji.
how many people on here watched the Super Bowl last Sunday? I don't think we have too many people does. Yes, Hare Krishna. You have a question?
So I have a comment. So that you told that that Krishna is saying to Arjuna that you kill your relatives because they are your aggressors. So Arjuna is in the grief.
Is this a question?
This is not a question.
Okay.
It's a comment, but did anybody other than her mother understand that comment?
Anyway, we didn't ask for comments. You don't try to, I know you're only 4 years old, but the question mark at the end of the sentence. Okay.
That is good.
Well, I'm glad we got that straightened out. Okay, any other question? Who's there? Is that Tanmay? Chai.
Jai, Hare Krishna.
Oh, when did you get back?
Today only.
Wow, nice to see you. Oh, well, we'll talk some other time. Right now, we got everybody. But let's give Tanbai a big hurry bowl for welcome back. Hari
Hari
Bol!
I saw his name too, like with the Pranab Govinda and the Naman.
Who's there? Boy, they're getting a pretty crowded temple in their place. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I'm gonna go to the next verse. Does anybody have
Prabhuji, I
any
have
other
a
questions?
comment.
Okay, comment, who's that?
Madhav Kanta Prabhu.
Okay,
I think Srila Prabhupada mentioned that everybody is soul, they are not the body. So this should not be misused to just start killing the people, because then you think I'm just killing the body, so what's the problem? So this is something I wanted to share, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
we just
Hare
read it.
Krishna.
We just read that in the purport.
Sorry, Prabhuji, then I joined late.
Oh. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna read the next verse. I think we have time. Okay, you can repeat the Sanskrit, but I won't have everyone chant it. Najayate mriyate vakadachin.
Jayate mriyate va kadachin.
Nayam dukva bhavita vanabuya.
Mayam deva bhuvita vana bhuya.
Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano.
Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano.
Vahanyate hanamani. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He's unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Purport. Qualitatively, the small atomic fragmental part of the Supreme Spirit is one with the Supreme. He undergoes no changes like the body. Sometimes the soul is called a steady or kutastha. The body is subject to 6 kinds of transformations. It takes its birth from the womb of the mother's body, remains for some time, grows, produces some effects, gradually dwindles, and at last vanishes into oblivion. The soul, however, does not go through such changes. The soul is not born, but because it takes on a material body, the body takes its birth. The soul does not take birth there. The soul does not take birth there, and the soul does not die. Anything which has birth also has death. And because the soul has no birth, he therefore has no past, present, or future. He is eternal, ever existing, and primeval. That is, there is no trace in history of his coming into being. Under the impression of the body, we seek the history of birth, etc., of the soul. The soul does not at any time become old as the body does. The so-called old man therefore feels himself to be in the same spirit as in his childhood or youth. The changes of the body do not affect the soul. The soul does not deteriorate like a tree, nor anything material. The soul has no byproducts either. The byproducts of the body, namely children, are also different individual souls. And owing to the body, they appear as children of a particular man. The body develops because of the soul's presence, but the soul has neither offshoots nor change. Therefore, the soul is free from the 6 changes of the body. So before I go on reading some more of the purport, I'll make some comments. I like the beginning qualitatively, the small atomic fragmental part of the Supreme Spirit is one with the Supreme. So we are just like Prabhupada said, we like sample gods. We're little fragmental parts and parcels of God. We're like a little sample. So we have the same quality as God, and God doesn't change, and God is eternal, and we are also eternal, and we also don't change. And even like we don't have, the soul doesn't have byproducts, but God doesn't have byproducts, but these are all parts and parcels of him. And as we learned in Ishopanishad, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he still remains a complete balance. And Prabhupada taught spiritual mathematics is 1 + 1 = 1. 1 - 1 = 1. So Krishna, there's always Krishna. And even though so many expansions from him, he still remains the supreme absolute. He doesn't lose anything when he has all these expansions. The body is subject to the 6 changes. Okay, what is it? Birth, you remain for some time, you grow, some effects or byproducts. What did I miss? There's birth, remains for some time, grows. Well, that's it, grows, produces some byproducts, gradually dwindles. That's 5. What's the other one? And at last vanishes. That's the last one. It disappears. You know, you don't see human bodies like on the street and eventually disappearing. They break down, but you sometimes see other things. You can see some things on YouTube probably of different little animals or something where they have it in slow motion. They just take different pictures and then they show it going real fast and the whole thing disappears. So the body is going to eventually disappear. It may be burnt and then it turns into ashes, but it's no longer a body. Could be getting eaten by other living entities and become stool. So the body is definitely, or in the Bible it says from dust to dust, it becomes dust. I don't know how it becomes dust. But if you just leave it and do nothing with any body, it will eventually die. And Prabhupada is nice enough to give an example of a tree. When you see a tree, you go to a forest and the thing just rots out. It completely rots and it becomes earth again. This is what happens to the body. But the soul doesn't have any of these changes. The soul is the eternal part and parcel of Krishna. So don't have to worry about, this fighting this war. You fight the war because it's your duty. So in the Katha Upanishad 1-18, we also find a similar passage which reads, Najayate mriyate va vipaschin, nayam kutaschin nababuva kaschit, ajo nitya shasvato yam purano, nahanyate hanyamane sharire. The meaning and purport of this verse is the same as in the Bhagavad Gita. But here in this verse, there is one special word, vipaschit, which means learned or with knowledge. The soul is full of knowledge or full always with consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is the symptom of the soul. It's interesting. What's a symptom of the soul? It says that the soul is conscious and consciousness. So this is a simple symptom. Wherever there's consciousness, there's a soul. So if you say, people say animals have no soul. If animals are conscious, there is a soul. That's the symptom of the soul. When the soul leaves the body, there's no consciousness left in that body, just a dead body. So the soul is conscious and consciousness. Even if one does not find the soul within the heart where he is situated, one can still understand the presence of the soul simply by the presence of consciousness. So also we learn here and in other places where the soul is situated in the heart. I was talking to someone today about how Yeah, how when Jadharani was painting a painting of Paramatma, the Lord in the heart, and she asked Srila Prabhupada, is because he's seated in the heart, is he sitting or is he standing in the heart? And Prabhupada said he's standing. And then he added, just by accepting authority, bona fide authority, you can find out in 1 second that the soul is standing in the heart. If you try to find that out on your own, it can take you many, many lifetimes. So because we accept the authority of the bona fide representative of Krishna, we can find out about the Lord in our heart, where he's
Ah,
sitting, how he's standing in our heart. So sometimes we do not find the sun in the sky owing to clouds or for some other reason. But the light of the sun is always there, and we are convinced that it is there for daytime. As soon as there is a little light in the sky early in the morning, we can understand that the
ఉండు
sun is in the sky.
ఎందుకు ఏడుస్తుందని చెప్పు.
Similarly, since there is some consciousness in all bodies, whether man or animal, we can understand the presence of the soul. Good example of the sun, because before the sun comes up, it's light at dawn. The sun isn't even up, but the light is there. So you know the daytime is coming. The sun is going to come up. Or when it's raining and there's clouds, you can see that there's light. It's different than at night. So you know that the sun so you know it's daytime. So this consciousness of the soul is, however, different from the consciousness of the Supreme, because the Supreme consciousness is all-knowing, past, present, and future. The consciousness of the individual soul is prone to be forgetful. So we're little fragmental parts and parts of Krishna. We have tiny little bit consciousness. We're fully conscious, but not conscious the same as the Lord. And we can know what's going on within our body, but we can't know what's going on in everyone else's body. But Krishna knows what's going on in everyone's body. So I'm conscious of this particular body, the pains and pleasures I'm experiencing, but I don't know the pains and pleasure that you're experiencing in your body. So when he is forgetful of his real nature, that means when we forget that we're the soul, he obtains education and enlightenment from the superior lessons of Krishna. But Krishna is not like the forgetful soul. If so, Krishna's teachings of Bhagavad Gita would be useless. If it's just one forgetful soul teaching some other forgetful soul, what's the use? They're both the blind leading the blind, and they both.
Exactly, but better.
Can you mute whoever's talking? There are two kinds of souls, namely the minute particle soul, Anuatma, and the super soul, Vibhu Atma. This is also confirmed in the Katha Upanishad 1.2.20. In this way, Ano Aniyan Mahato Mahiyan Atmasya Jantor Nihito Guhayam Tam Akratu Pasyati Vita Shoko Datur Prasadan Mahimanam Atmana. So don't forget that this is about these two kinds of souls, Anuatma and Vibhu Atma. Vibhu Atma is the super soul, Anuatma is the individual soul. Both the super soul, Paramatma, and the atomic soul, Jivatma, are situated on the same tree of the body within the same heart of the living being. And only one who has become free from all material desires, as well as lamentations, can, by the grace of the Supreme, understand the glories of the soul. So this is from the Katha Upanishad. Krishna is the fountainhead of the super soul also, as it will be disclosed in the following chapters, and Arjuna is the atomic soul. forgetful of his real nature. Therefore, he is required to be enlightened by Krishna or by his bona fide representative, the spiritual master. So here, Krishna is the fountainhead of the Supersoul. So the Supersoul, Paramatma, is ultimately an expansion of Krishna. Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all other expansions of him are secondary, or they may be equal, but they come from the original. And none of the expansions are completely equal because they all possibly Balaram, because there are certain qualities that Krishna has, even the Vishnu Tattvas don't have. So we are not the body. You've heard it so many times. We're the soul. We're the tiny fragmental spark within the body. And yet we become so attached to these bodies. And there's so many sparks. In every body, there's another spark. It's a soul, spirit soul, just like a little spark. But yet, I mean, that soul, that spark also has form. But there's, we get so attached to the bodies, and we get so attached to the sparks within other bodies. But we get attached to the bodies that are possessed by the sparks, and the sparks are the real thing. The soul is the real thing. So I'm going to read this verse one more time and see if anyone has any questions. Questions first. I'll ask for comments after that. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. So that he can't start. The soul doesn't just start like, okay, now we got a new soul. You hear people, oh, I'm an old soul. Every soul is the same age. I'm an old soul. You're just a young soul or a new soul. The souls are all eternal. There's no beginning or end. What has birth will die. And the soul has no birth. It's eternal. So he has not come into being, and he does not come into being, and will not come into being. He's unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Okay, any questions?
Yes.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, who's talking?
Pranath Govinda.
Oh, Hari Bol.
Prabhu, I have one question. It is in one specific scenario. Someone, in Mayapur temple, some congregation devotee was suited. I mean, someone came and then they just took the bullet and killed the devotee on spot.
When was
And
it?
yeah, it was this week only, I think a few days back. So now government is trying, police is trying, you know how police is. So they are trying to catch the culprit, but no clue, they have not. In case they don't catch, what happens to that person who has killed the devotee? That is first part of the question. And second part of the question, if I am at that spot and I take my gun and shoot that person who killed the devotee, and then police catch me and put me in prison for whole life based on whatever I have done, what is my future?
About India. Over here, if somebody's killing somebody and you shoot them, you're not going to go to jail.
Okay.
But I don't know India. Who knows what they do there? But
Okay, that's good. So that answers second part of the question. That is good. And what is the first part of the question, Prabhu? In case the police or cops don't.
They don't catch him. It's his karma. He's going to have to suffer greatly. So much more than if he just got killed. So he may have to get killed many times. I don't know. I mean, I'll ask Yamaraj, but I don't know. I'll let you know if he tells me anything.
And Prabhu, one more third part of that question: why such unforeseen situation happens in this to that devotee, because he was sincerely serving part of the congregation, doing a lot of service, but all of a sudden this happened.
Krishna takes him back to Godhead. If you can go back to Godhead right this second, would you rather stay here and keep your job and try to stay in America and, or would you just go?
Go.
Yeah, if you can go right now, if you knew without a doubt, you can leave your body and go back to Godhead. So he was fortunate, this was in Mayapur,
Yes.
and so he went back to Godhead. So it's Krishna's, in different ways he works, but the devotee has to see it's coming from Krishna. Everyone has to see it's Krishna's arrangement. When it's out of your control, well, it's Krishna's arrangement. So Krishna made this arrangement, and and most likely, I don't see how he wouldn't go back to Godhead if you leave your body in Mayapur.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hari Bol.
Okay, Hari Bol. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Is that Murli again?
I'm afraid it is. Pyari Prabhu, my question is based on something I was always told as a devotee, that consciousness is carried in the blood. Comes from the soul, but it's carried in the blood. Like if part of your body falls asleep, you can't feel it anymore because the blood supply has been cut down. So my question is this: if consciousness is carried in the blood, is it affected if your blood is, say, your blood becomes dirty, or what happens if you get a blood transfusion from a meat eater or something? Does blood affect the consciousness at all if consciousness is carried in the blood?
Okay, first of all, that's an assumption. I heard that too. I don't really quote it because I don't know, where it came from. But we could look it up and see if it says. Did you ever look it up?
No, I didn't.
Okay, we should first find that out. But I would say the same thing about the heart. When Prabhupada says the soul is seated in the heart. I mean, the soul, Paramatma, are seated in the heart. And someone asked about what about a heart transplant? And it didn't matter if it's a meat eater or whose heart it was that you got as in a transplant. So what happens then? And Prabhupada says he changed his seats. Like we think of all these complicated things. So he's just sitting in one heart. Okay, he moves out of the way, put the other heart, then he sits there or stands there, whatever. But so I would think with the blood, it's not going to make any difference. That's just a material thing, the consciousness. Now I got intravenous because I lost blood, and now I feel like eating meat.
But we know that consciousness is affected by the environment it's in. That's why we want to associate with devotees and not associate with non-devotees. So, forget about if you get a transfusion, but let's say my blood because I become sick, my blood becomes, dirty, or, there's some problem with my blood. So if the consciousness is being carried in the blood, the environment now is not so pure. Will I, be like groggy? We do become groggy, under certain conditions. Our consciousness becomes groggy.
Well, Vadika, you've been alone too long. If your consciousness is in the blood, it means it's traveling throughout the whole body. Your consciousness, the whole body, and it's just a transportation system. If it ain't moving, then I don't know what happens. You'll probably just die. But as long as it's moving, what's the difference if you have an old car or a new car? As long as it gets you to where you want to go. So I don't think it's going to make a difference if your blood, I remember, you probably remember this old commercial. You have tired blood. What was it? Geritol commercial.
Right.
Tired blood. So anyway, I don't see how it would make any difference whatsoever with the consciousness. I don't think it'll affect you in any way if your blood is a little tired.
if I use the example you just gave, there's, a person is traveling in two different cars, doesn't matter. But let's say one car is playing, loud rock and roll music. So the person consciousness will be affected by that loud rock and roll music unless they're very pure. That's the analogy I would try to make, that somehow the blood is not, not a 2020.
But it's your consciousness. The blood isn't conscious. And if that music is loud, you shut it off. Just put on some nice bhajans.
Okay.
I don't think it may. I mean, you're asking these questions that I don't think anybody can answer, 100% sure. But I certainly don't think it would make any difference whatsoever in your conscience. I mean, we can do a test. We can get someone who's a very degraded person, and we can transfer, get rid of all our blood and take their blood. I mean, in order to do that, you have to have some kind of bad mentality. You have bad blood already. Okay, any easier question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, you mentioned that when the heart gets transplanted, the soul gets seated. And so does that, if there are two person A and B, and if the heart is getting transplant from person A to person B, so the soul of person B will just get seated into the heart?
Okay, first of all, the soul in one body is already gone. It's when somebody just dies, or they're gonna die, and they just take his heart. The person is one soul is already left, so that heart is empty. So then they give it to you, because you don't take out somebody's heart and give it to another person, except maybe in India, I don't know.
But soul doesn't reside in the heart, Prabhu. Means if
It's in the heart, yes.
so, if we are changing the heart of other person, right? The person whose heart is not a good heart, so that time also his soul should also go away for the person B.
They take his soul out. They take the heart. They take his heart out, and they put the new heart in, and he goes into the new heart.
Okay, so the soul doesn't reside actually in the heart then.
Yes, it does. It's not like locked in the heart and it can't come out.
Okay.
It's transcendental. It goes out through the iota or the.
Okay.
Actually, Prabhu, is it okay if I have if I add few comments on that? Prabhuji? Oh, this is Sunita.
Yeah.
We I came across this person, his heart got transplanted in US, in the last minute, that guy met with a bike accident and they transplanted this heart to a person who has a heart issue, and he is almost in his 55 or close to 60s. But again, after the transplantation, he has kids, two daughters and one son. But he used to start feeling that he's young and he want to ride bikes, and and his desires for other stuff changed a lot. And the family was started noticing all this after the heart transplantation. And then he has his he knows this is a this is his current family, and he went to the heart transplant, everything was the same, but his desires changed, but then later he because they usually doesn't really reveal the facts where they got the heart or like, whose heart is transplanted like that. But he went back, like, digging the stuff, like, whose heart he got transplanted and all those. But he could only went to, like, he could he went to certain extent where he could find only few things. They didn't reveal any details, but he know that that kid was only like 22. And so I think, like, it might be helpful for your answer, like, I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know that story and I can't comment on it.
No, this is not from ISKCON or anything. It's like personally, like, I came across his family. So
I've heard that story also. So I am thinking that some impressions of the last person remains with his heart.
yeah, that's what I felt, Mataji.
Well, maybe as the soul was leaving, he told the other soul, hey, I'm going to give you my heart, but I just want to ask you, please ride a bike. I really like bike riding. And then he says,
Not just only the bike riding, like, his tastes have changed a lot.
I'm only joking.
Yeah.
Hare
I-
Krishna, Pyari Prabhu.
What?
Sorry, can I add a small comment here?
Sure.
Yeah, so actually what Mataji was talking is that the person who got the heart transplanted, he remembers from the past, right? So actually there is an institute called Heart Math. So that institute has discovered something, that the heart has at least 10,000 cells, which are similar to our brain cells, which can gather the information. And the same case has happened with a young girl. She passed away, and they transferred the heart into another young girl. And then she kept remembering these kind of like, she used to get nightmares. And then they discovered that the girl who passed away, she had bad memories. And then that is the reason why the heart whose heart was transferred, she was also having the same kind of nightmares.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, it's just like the brain and just, I mean, in a sense. So there's some impressions and certain things you still remember. But even the brain, we think there's instances of Murali Vodka probably knows with like Sadhaputta was writing some things about how people were living with like half a brain and functioning perfectly. So it's not just a brain. There is like a subtle part, a subtle mind. The mind, when we say the mind in Vedic, it's not the brain. The mind is subtle. The brain is like the gross thing that holds all this stuff. That's the area. But even if things happen to the brain, still lots of times people can function fine. So it's hard to know about the whole body, how it all works. But it seems like, yeah, I don't know, but in Ayurveda or in they like here we can do transplants, and they can actually do head transplants. You can transplant somebody's head. So I have no idea what they think. I mean, if the heart has these things, imagine if they do the head. And of course, Daksha got the head of a goat, but he was still functioning fine. He wasn't just going around making goat sounds. Anyway, there's a lot of things we don't know about these material bodies, how they work. But we can definitely know about the soul. And the soul, just like the soul in this body, thinks it's the body. So if you got a new heart and it has some memories, you start thinking that way because you're not really pure identifying with who you are. You're identifying with who you're not. So you can identify with the certain cells within the heart that remember things from the past. But when you're pure, then you wouldn't do that. So if you were a pure devotee, and you had a heart transplant, you won't be thinking about riding a bike because you wouldn't identify with anything material. Not that there's anything wrong with riding a bike. Okay, we're gonna end here. They're like 2 minutes. I don't know, do we have a test?
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna have a test. I'm gonna close my book.
I think not for you, Prabhuji, test.
What?
Test is not for you, so you find your class test is difficult, right? You mentioned last time.
Right. Class that I didn't listen to, I got 100 on the test. And the class I give,
All right. Let's give
okay,
it
I'm ready. I'm fired up. Oh, I got that one right. Tell me if I'm right, Jiva.
Prabhuji, the question 7 should be multiple choice, isn't it?
okay. So yeah, almost done. So we can take maybe 20 more seconds and finish this.
Prabhu, I don't know what is spiritual math.
we can discuss.
For that question only, Prabhuji, I think there should be multiple choice. You gave two right, I
Let's
think.
discuss. Let's discuss.
Yeah, sure, Prabhuji.
All right, we have one more devotee who's pending. If he's answering, please let me know. Otherwise, I will end the poll. One or two. Okay. Okay, no answer. So let's close the call. Here you go. And poll. Share result. Okay. So the first question is, how many changes does the soul undergo? Okay. So this is little tricky. So you might have observed I'm asking soul, not the body. Okay. So the answer is 0. So if it's a body, then it is 6. So next question is, what are the different qualities of the soul defined here? Okay. So the first 4 are correct. So the second last 2 are not correct. I'm not saying na jayate na mriyate. I'm saying jayate and mriyate. I'm saying. So the soul will take birth and soul will take death. I'm asking that's not the correct answer. So first 4 is correct answer. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavishana bhuyaya. Okay, what is the symptoms of the soul? So that is consciousness. It is mentioned in the purport. Then next is, what analogy is given to understand the symptom of soul? The analogy Prabhupada is given that sun covered by the clouds and the light is the symptoms. That is what is mentioned in the purport. And what are the 2 kinds of soul? It is again mentioned, it's Anu and Vibhu. And who can understand the glories of the soul? So the first 2 answer correct. That's mentioned in purport. One who free from all material desire and lamentation, and one who receives the grace from Supreme, grace of Supreme. So that's what mentioned in the purport. And last question is, what is spiritual math? You know, this is the Prabhupada comment which Pyari Prabhu just told, like 1 + 1 = 1, 1 - 1 = 1. So that's why I choose it a single answer. 1 + 1 = 1. That's the correct answer. It's a Prabhupada's comment, and just Pyari Prabhu told. That's all. Padmalochan, is it okay now?
Yeah, Prabhuji, actually, I thought it is 1 - 1 = 1. Somehow that 0 looks to me 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Answers.
Thank you everyone for participating in the quiz. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarupasya kripasindhubhaya patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo
अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद
जय
की
श्रील
जय, श्रील
प्रभुपाद
प्रभुपाद
की जय।
His Grace प्यारी
ग्रेस
मोहन
प्यारे
प्रभु
मोहन
की
प्रभु
जय।
की जय।
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I thank you all for attending this class and tolerating me, and I hope you're not getting discouraged and and you still come to some more of my classes. Hare Krishna, glories to Prabhupada. Nice to see you, Murli. I don't expect that we're going to see too much of Murli. Hare Bol, glories to Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.